State Representative Cody Harris, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Now, you filed a bill calling for the Texas Water Development Board to implement a groundwater science, research, and innovation fund. What was your inspiration for doing so?
That's right, Michael. Yeah, water is such a critical issue for the entire state of Texas, whether you live in East Texas or in the Panhandle, South Texas, everywhere. Water is one of the most critical issues that we face as a state. You know, when we consider that we're the eighth largest economy in the world and we have 1,300 people a day moving here, we have to know what we're going to do to supply all of those people with that water. And we can't continue to be the economic leader in the country that we are without a reliable water plan. So the purpose of this bill is to allocate the resources necessary for the Water Development Board to have an updated and real-time, real-world study to determine exactly where we're at throughout our different aquifers across the state. And the different groundwater conservation districts that we have so that we have to know where we're at before we can plan where we're going, right? So this gives us the ability to do exactly that and plan for the future.
Now, I know that you're based in Palestine. Your district encompasses multiple parts of East Texas. Was there an area in District 8, which you represent, that was really championing this bill, or is suffering from poor water quality?
Well, not really suffering from poor water quality. What we have to be on guard for here in East Texas is the rest of the state wanting our water. And before we make any sorts of deals selling that water, and that would be up to the people here in these local communities, we need to make sure we understand exactly how much water we have for the future. And so that's why it's so important for East Texans to get a bill like this passed. Is the rest of the entire state, west of I-35 corridor and south of I-10, they need our water. If we don't come up with something else like water desalination or moving water in from other states, possibly different things that we're looking at. But regardless, we still have to know what we're dealing with right now in East Texas.
Now, this same bill has also been filed on the Senate side by Senators Johnson and Kolkhorst. Did you collaborate with them on this bill, or did they file it on their own?
I've worked closely with Senator Kolkhorst on different water issues, different issues across the Capitol for the last couple of sessions, and she's a leader on natural resource issues, just like Senator Perry. And I think it's a great option in the Senate to help get this bill moved all the way through the process and to the governor's desk.
Well, let me go further into that. How confident are you that this bill will be signed by Governor Abbott?
I think he recognizes without a doubt what a big issue water is for this session. Now is the time for us to begin to solve that issue. This is really a small drop in the bucket compared to everything else that we need to do, no pun intended. But I think this bill really does have a really good shot at making it all the way through to the governor's desk, and I think he will sign it if it makes it that far.
Well, I can tell you I appreciate the pun. Now, so you sort of allude to the fact that, in East Texas, you feel that people are fine when it comes to water sort of west of I-35, where folks need it more. So with that being said, what impact do you feel this bill would have on East Texans?
This bill gives us the ability to determine our own future. When we're looking at the DFW region constantly trying to acquire more of our water rights in East Texas, without having a full and broad understanding of exactly what the depth of our resources on water and being able to forecast that into the future, we can't really make an educated decision when it comes to that. So I think that gives us the ability to do exactly that.
And I sort of want to talk about this fund specifically more. Who would be on this? Who would be helping to finance this fund? Can people donate directly? Who would be supervising it? Sort of give me the gist of it.
Sure. So the Texas Water Development Board would be supervising the fund. It would be open to donations. That's specifically in the bill that it could take donations from individuals if they were so moved. But it would primarily be funded through the general revenue that the state of Texas collects. We're looking at over $20 billion in surplus for this biennium, this 2-year period. And that's really the only job that the legislature has, is to pass a balanced budget. That's the only thing we're constitutionally required to do. So when we're in these sessions where our economy has done phenomenally well, and it's primarily driven, our surplus is primarily driven by oil and gas severance taxes. That's where the surplus mostly comes from, and then from sales tax as well. Then we have to look at our long-term needs and how we can use that money that was gained at the expense of hardworking Texas throughout the state. So we can't just be spending it on frivolous things by any means. So I think water and water availability for the future is one of the most important things that we could be spending it on.
And how can districts apply for this fund, and how much specifically would they be able to receive?
I think it would be, right now, that's all subject to negotiation between the House and the Senate. We won't really know the final answer on how much for each application yet. But each groundwater conservation district, I think, would be able to apply to the Water Development Board for this grant funding, and that's what it's really designed for, is to get those funds back to the local conservation districts, where they can do their own analyses on water availability.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this bill was sort of a drop in the bucket, pun intended, in terms of legislation regarding water. You've said that water quality is one of your top legislative priorities. So are there any other bills you plan on filing this session relating to water research, water quality, just water in general in Texas?
Yeah, I've been working closely over the last year and a half with Senator Perry out of Lubbock on a pretty large water plan that would help us begin to tackle the massive issue of water supply. Another area that we need to look at is existing infrastructure. We're losing so much water through leaking pipes, through aged and deferred maintenance issues throughout our various water systems all across the state of Texas. Now's the time for us to be able to begin to address those issues. So whether I'm filing them or not, I'm definitely going to do everything in my power to help those bills move through the process this session.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience about this bill calling for the Groundwater Science Research and Innovation Fund?
Whether people realize it or not, water is probably the single biggest issue that will affect the future of the state of Texas. That's our economy, our ability to create jobs, our ability to continue to attract people to the state of Texas. And while it doesn't usually make it on a campaign mailer during the primary season, I hope that it's a topic that the average person would take an interest in and begin to understand and study, so that we can do these hard things during sessions when we have the resources to do it, and that we have public buy-in, and that people understand how important the need is.
State Representative Cody Harris, we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.